Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. The neon-tinted chaos of New Aurora Station pulsed around Josh as he shouldered his way through the crowded transit hub. Holographic advertisements flickered overhead in a dozen languages, while anti-grav platforms zipped past carrying everything from Martian produce to Centaurian crystal formations. A pair of towering Andromedans ducked their elongated heads to pass beneath a low-hanging power conduit, their crystalline skin catching the artificial light. Josh adjusted his civilian clothes, still stiff and uncomfortable after years in tactical gear. His enhanced senses picked up fragments of conversation in various alien dialects, analyzing potential threats out of habit. Old habits died hard, even when trying to play the role of a simple IT specialist. "Welcome to Residential Block B7, chirped the automated system as Josh approached his new apartment. "Please verify identity." He pressed his palm against the scanner, suppressing a smirk as the system struggled to process his modified genetic signature. The nanotech coursing through his veins always confused standard scanners. "Identity confirmed. Welcome, Mr. Joshua Killian." The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a Spartanly furnished unit with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the station's lower rings. Josh dropped his duffel bag and conducted a quick sweep, old habits again. The apartment was exactly as advertised. Standard issue furniture, basic kitchen unit, and a view of the endless stream of ships coming and going from the station's docking rings. "Home sweet home," he muttered, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. At 47, he looked younger than his years, another gift from the Titan project. The reflection in the window showed a face that could pass for mid-30s, with only a few telling lines around the eyes hinting at the weight of experience behind them. His comm unit buzzed, another check-in from his handler. "Settling in?" The text scrolled across his retinal display. "Affirmative. Beginning observation phase." "Remember, you're just a normal IT guy now. Try to act like one." "Copy that, though I might need a reminder on what normal looks like these days." Josh unpacked methodically, each item finding its precise place. The few personal belongings he owned were carefully arranged to suggest an ordinary civilian life: family photos, all carefully fabricated, some sports memorabilia, and a collection of vintage Earth books that he actually did enjoy reading. The sun simulator began its programmed descent, casting long shadows through the station's transparent dome. Josh was about to order dinner when a commotion in the hallway caught his attention. His enhanced hearing picked up the sound of struggling movement and muttered curses in an alien dialect. He hesitated for a moment. Getting involved with neighbors wasn't part of his cover story. But then came the distinct sound of something heavy about to fall. Josh moved before conscious thought kicked in, his augmented reflexes carrying him to the door in 2 swift strides. As it slid open, he found himself face to face with the most striking alien female he'd ever encountered. She was struggling with an ornate mirror almost as tall as she was, its ancient frame carved with swirling patterns that seemed to move in the light. But it was the woman herself who caught and held his attention. Her skin was a deep azure blue that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. Long pink hair cascaded past elegant shoulders, and her eyes, those eyes were like looking into the heart of a nebula. Time seemed to slow as the mirror began to tip. Josh's enhanced reflexes kicked in automatically. One hand shot out to steady the mirror while the other caught the woman's waist as she stumbled. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through his system, something his nanotech enhancements couldn't quite process. Her skin literally glowed where he touched her, and he felt a subtle vibration beneath his palm. Her eyes widened in surprise, or was it something else, as she steadied herself against his chest. "Thank you," she breathed. her voice carrying a musical quality that seemed to resonate in his bones. "That mirror is a family heirloom. I would have been devastated if—" "Happy to help," Josh replied, carefully keeping his voice casual despite the way his enhanced senses were practically overloading from her proximity. "Need a hand getting it the rest of the way?" "Oh, yes, please. I'm Liani," she said, those spectacular eyes studying his face with obvious interest. "I just moved into Unit 7C. Josh Killian, 7B. Looks like we're neighbors." He adjusted his grip on the mirror, noting how she seemed to find excuses to brush against him as they maneuvered the awkward object down the corridor. "Lucky me," she murmured, so softly that only his enhanced hearing caught it. Then louder, "I hope I'm not disturbing your evening?" "Not at all. I was just getting settled in myself." They reached her door and Josh helped position the mirror against a wall. Her apartment was a riot of color and exotic fabrics, with strange crystalline sculptures catching the light. "I must repay you somehow," Liani said, taking a step closer. Josh's sensors picked up a subtle change in the air, some kind of biochemical signature his systems couldn't quite classify. "Perhaps you could join me for dinner? I make an excellent Centaurian fusion cuisine." Josh noticed her pupils dilating slightly, her breathing pattern shifting. His military training kicked in, analyzing these subtle cues while maintaining his casual demeanor. There was definitely something more going on here than simple neighborly friendliness. "Thanks, but I should finish unpacking," he deflected smoothly, noting how her skin dimmed slightly at the refusal. "Another time, perhaps." "Of course," she recovered quickly, offering a smile that did interesting things to his pulse rate, enhanced physiology or not. "We're neighbors after all. I'm sure we'll be seeing quite a bit of each other." The way she said it made it sound like both a promise and a challenge. Josh found himself intrigued despite his best intentions. As he headed back to his apartment, he could feel her eyes on him. His enhanced hearing picked up her quiet sigh as her door finally closed. Back in his apartment, Josh ran a quick diagnostic on his systems. The nanotech in his bloodstream was behaving oddly, showing patterns he'd never seen before. Something about Liani had triggered a response his enhancements weren't designed to handle. His comm buzzed again. "Status report? Settling in fine. Met one neighbor. Nothing significant to report." He hesitated before sending that last part. For the first time in years, he found himself keeping something from his handlers. Whatever was happening with his new neighbor, he wanted to understand it himself first. The sun simulator completed its cycle, plunging the station into artificial night. Through the wall, Josh's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of movement from 7C, and beneath that, a subtle humming that seemed to match the frequency that had disturbed his nanotech earlier. He had a feeling life on New Aurora was about to become far more interesting than his cover story suggested. Josh was debugging a security protocol when his enhanced hearing picked up the distinctive click of heels in the hallway. He found himself counting down. 3, 2, 1. A gentle knock at his door. "Coming!" he called out, already knowing who he'd find. This would make the third chance encounter this week. The door slid open to reveal Liani, wearing what appeared to be traditional attire from her home world. A shimmering fabric that clung in all the right places while maintaining an air of sophisticated elegance. Her pink hair was elaborately braided, drawing attention to the graceful curve of her neck. "Oh, Josh, I didn't expect you to be home," she said, in a tone that suggested exactly the opposite. "My environmental controls are acting up again. I don't suppose—" "Let me guess. The temperature's fluctuating." He fought back a smile, remembering yesterday's emergency with her communication system. "How did you know?" Her eyes widened in feigned surprise, the nebula-like depth sparkling with barely concealed mischief. Lucky guess. Mind if I take a look? Her apartment was exactly as chaotic as he remembered, but he noticed subtle changes. The furniture had been rearranged to create more intimate seating areas, and there was a distinctly earthen aroma in the air. Is that coffee? I've been exploring human customs, Liani explained, her skin shimming slightly. I find your species fascinating. Josh pretended to examine the environmental control panel while his enhanced senses analyzed the room. The temperature was perfect, but there were trace amounts of an unknown chemical compound in the air, similar to what he'd detected during their first meeting, but stronger now. You know, he said casually, the system seems fine. Are you sure you're not just adjusting to the station's atmospheric settings? Liani moved closer, ostensibly to look at the panel. Her arm brushed against his, and he watched in fascination as her skin literally pulsed with bioluminescence at the contact. Perhaps you're right, she murmured, though I find myself sensitive to certain conditions lately. Josh's nanotech went into overdrive, trying to process whatever signal she was giving off. He maintained his composed exterior, but internally, his enhanced systems were lighting up like a Christmas tree. Sensitive? He turned to face her, noting how she didn't step back, leaving them mere inches apart. She hummed, reaching up to adjust her hair. The movement was deliberately graceful, almost choreographed. It's a natural cycle for my species. Certain attractions become harder to ignore. Attractions? Josh kept his voice neutral, though his tactical training was screaming that this was more than simple flirtation. Liani took another step closer, then seemingly lost her balance. Josh's reflexes kicked in automatically, catching her. His hands found her waist, and he felt that same electric sensation from their first meeting. Oh! She steadied herself by gripping his arms, her fingers lingering longer than necessary. These human shoes, so difficult to master. Josh glanced down at her feet, noting that she seemed perfectly comfortable in the high-heeled boots she wore. As his gaze traveled back up, he caught her sharp intake of breath when his eyes passed her legs. Interesting. Maybe you should stick to more practical footwear, he suggested, carefully helping her regain her balance while maintaining a professional distance. But then I'd have no excuse to have you catch me. The words slipped out before she could stop them, and her skin darkened in what he assumed was a blush. I'm sure you'd find other excuses, Josh replied, allowing a hint of knowing humor into his voice. Liani's eyes widened, and for a moment her composed facade cracked. You know I'm making excuses? I'm in IT, remember? We're good at recognizing patterns. He kept his tone light but held her gaze. She recovered quickly, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. And what patterns have you recognized, Josh? That my neighbor seems to have an extraordinary run of technical difficulties, all requiring immediate assistance. Perhaps your neighbor simply enjoys your company, she countered, taking a deliberate step closer. Josh's enhanced senses went into overdrive as another wave of those mysterious biochemical signals washed over him. His nanotech struggled to process the input, creating an unusual sensation somewhere between alertness and attraction. Perhaps, he agreed, maintaining his calm exterior while his internal systems practically buzzed, though I can't help wondering why. Liani's expression shifted, becoming more serious. You're different, she said softly. I can't quite figure out how, but you are. For a moment they stood in charged silence, each aware that they were playing a game neither fully understood. Then Josh's comm unit buzzed, breaking the moment. I should go, he said, noting how her skin dimmed slightly at his words. Try to stay away from those troublesome high heels. No promises, she replied with a small smile. Technical difficulties have a way of happening around here. At the door, she caught his arm. Josh? Would you like to have dinner sometime? No pretenses, no excuses, just dinner. He studied her for a moment, weighing training against instinct. I'd like that. Her skin literally glowed at his response, and he felt his nanotech respond in kind, creating an odd warmth under his skin. Back in his apartment, Josh ran another diagnostic on his systems. The unusual readings were becoming more frequent, especially during his encounters with Liani. His handler would want to know about this development, but something held him back from reporting it. Through the wall, he heard her moving around her apartment, humming a melody he didn't recognize. His enhanced hearing picked up the words different and fascinating as she talked to herself. He smiled despite himself. Different indeed. The next evening found Josh standing outside Liani's door, a bottle of rare earth wine in hand. His enhanced senses detected multiple unusual energy signatures from within, some technological, others distinctly biological. The door slid open before he could knock. Liani stood there in a dress that seemed to be made of living starlight, her blue skin almost luminescent against the fabric. Josh's nanotech immediately began analyzing the unusual readings emanating from both her and the apartment. "You came," she breathed, genuine pleasure coloring her voice. "I was half afraid you'd find another technical emergency to attend to. And miss the chance to experience authentic alien cuisine? Not likely." He offered her the wine, watching as her fingers brushed deliberately against his during the exchange. The apartment had been transformed. Crystalline formations hung from the ceiling, casting prismatic patterns across the walls. The air was heavy with exotic spices that his enhanced olfactory sensors couldn't quite categorize. "Beautiful," he commented, genuinely impressed. "Thank you," Liani smiled, moving with deliberate grace toward what appeared to be a traditional low table surrounded by cushions. "It's meant to recreate a formal dining setting from my homeworld." Josh noted how she'd arranged the seating to ensure they'd be sitting close together. His tactical training appreciated the strategy, even as his nanotech warned of increasing biochemical activity in the air. "Wine?" she offered, having already poured 2 glasses. "I'm told it pairs well with Centaurian spices." "You've done your research," he observed, accepting the glass. "I like to be prepared." Her eyes met his over the rim of her glass. "Especially when entertaining interesting guests." The meal proved to be as exotic as the setting. Dishes that seemed to glow from within, flavors that triggered synaptic responses his enhancements hadn't been programmed to handle. Throughout it all, Liani maintained a steady stream of conversation that was equal parts charming and probing. "So, Josh," she said, reaching across him for a dish in a movement that brought her unnecessarily close, "what brings a human IT specialist to this particular station?" "Change of scenery," he replied smoothly, noting how her skin pulsed slightly when their arms touched. "What brings a—" He paused deliberately. "What was your species called again?" A flash of something, anxiety, crossed her features before she covered it with a smile. "Oh, we're not very well known. Just one of many spacefaring races." Interesting evasion, he thought. As she shifted position, her leg pressed against his. The contact sent a surge through his nanotech that was hard to ignore. Her breath caught, and he realized she'd felt something too. "You're not like other humans," she said softly, abandoning pretense. "When I'm near you, when we touch, it's different." Josh maintained his casual demeanor, even as his tactical systems went on alert. "Different how?" "You don't respond to—" She hesitated, then continued, "to certain influences the way others do. It's both frustrating and intriguing." She leaned closer, her skin beginning to glow more intensely. Josh's nanotech registered a spike in unknown biochemical compounds in the air. Maybe I'm just naturally resistant to charm, he suggested lightly. No. She shook her head, pink hair catching the light. It's more than that. You're enhanced somehow, aren't you? The directness of the question caught him off guard. Before he could respond, she reached out and traced a finger along his arm. The contact sent jolts of energy through his system, and he watched in fascination as patterns of light chased across her skin in response. Your touch. It resonates with something in me, she whispered. Something that shouldn't be possible with a normal human. Their eyes met, and for a moment, all pretense dropped away. Josh saw the intelligence behind her seductive facade, the calculation behind her seemingly accidental touches. She, in turn, seemed to recognize the soldier beneath his IT specialist cover. The moment was shattered by a crash from the corridor outside. Both of them tensed, their reactions revealing more than words could have. Josh moved with military precision toward the sound, while Liani's skin dimmed to near invisibility, a defensive reaction he filed away for future reference. It turned out to be nothing more than a malfunctioning cleaning droid, but the spell of the evening was broken. As Josh prepared to leave, Liani caught his hand. We're both hiding things, she said quietly. Perhaps we could be more honest with each other? Josh studied her, weighing his options. Honesty can be dangerous. So can attraction, she countered, her skin pulsing where their hands touched. He felt his nanotech responding to her proximity, creating sensations he couldn't quite classify. Indeed it can. At the door, she surprised him by rising on her toes and pressing a brief kiss to his cheek. The contact sent a surge of energy through his entire system, and he watched in fascination as waves of light rippled across her skin. Good night, Josh, she whispered. Thank you for a revealing evening. Back in his apartment, he ran a full diagnostic on his systems. The readings were off the charts, showing patterns he'd never seen before. His comm unit buzzed with another check-in from his handler, but he ignored it. Something was happening here, something neither his training nor his enhancements had prepared him for. As he stood at his window, watching the endless dance of ships beyond the station, he heard soft movement from Liani's apartment. She was humming again, but this time he recognized the melody, an old Earth love song. The irony wasn't lost on him. 3 days after their dinner, Josh's enhanced hearing picked up sounds of distress from Liani's apartment. Not the manufactured emergencies she'd been using as excuses. This was different. Glass shattering followed by a muffled cry. He was at her door in seconds, security protocols forgotten. Liani, don't come in. Her voice sounded strained. I'm fine, just please. His sensors detected dangerous levels of unknown biochemicals saturating the air. Through the door, he could see elevated heat signatures and unusual energy patterns. Your vital signs suggest otherwise, he said, dropping the IT specialist act. I'm coming in. The override codes he wasn't supposed to have made quick work of her lock. The scene inside stopped him cold. Liani stood in the center of the room, her skin pulsing with waves of brilliant blue light. The broken remnants of her ancient mirror lay scattered around her feet, but it was her eyes that caught his attention. They blazed like twin supernovas. You shouldn't see me like this, she gasped, backing away. The cycle. It's too strong. I can't. Josh's nanotech went into overdrive, trying to process the biochemical storm surrounding her. His vision sharpened, time seemed to slow, and he felt every enhanced cell in his body responding to her presence. You're not just going through a normal cycle, are you? He moved closer, noting how her skin brightened with each step he took. No, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. I'm my species. We're not supposed to. She stumbled, and this time her loss of balance was genuine. Josh caught her automatically. The moment their skin made contact, something extraordinary happened. His nanotech interfaced with whatever energy she was emanating, creating a feedback loop that sent sparks of pleasure through both of them. Liani gasped, her legs buckling. "How are you doing this?" she breathed, clutching his arms. "No human should be able to resist, to connect." "I'm not exactly a normal human," he admitted, struggling to maintain his composure as his enhancements tried to process the overwhelming input. Her fingers traced patterns on his skin, leaving trails of light in their wake. "No, you're definitely not. Just like I'm not a normal anything." Suddenly, her head snapped up, eyes wide with alarm. Josh heard it too. Footsteps in the corridor, too many and too synchronized to be residents. "They found me," she whispered, fear replacing desire in her voice. Josh's combat protocols activated instantly. His pupils dilated, muscle density increased, reaction time doubled. "Who?" "The ones who want my genetic code." She pressed closer, but now in desperation rather than attraction. "Please, I can't let them take me. Not during the cycle. The things they could do with my DNA right now." The footsteps stopped outside her door. Josh's tactical display showed 6 armed figures, probably corporate mercenaries based on their formation. "Do you trust me?" he asked, already calculating escape routes. "I shouldn't," she replied, her skin dimming to nearly black. A survival response, he realized. "But I do." The door's locking mechanism began to cycle. They had seconds. Josh's nanotech was still interfacing with her energy field, creating an unprecedented connection. He could feel her fear, her power, her need. Without conscious thought, he pulled her closer. Then, hold on. As the door began to slide open, Josh activated systems that weren't supposed to exist. His muscles supercharged, bones reinforced, neural pathways accelerated beyond human limits. Liani gasped as she felt the change through their connection. "You're like me," she whispered. "Another experiment?" "Something like that." He smiled grimly. "Ready to show these corporate types why some secrets are better left alone?" Her answering smile was fierce, her skin blazing back to brilliant blue. "Ready." The door slammed open with a hydraulic hiss, flooding Liani's apartment with harsh light. Josh's enhanced vision adjusted instantly, cataloging threats as they poured through the entrance. 6 figures in sleek exo armor, polymer mesh designed to deflect energy weapons and augment physical strength. Corporate mercs, just as he'd suspected. "Well," he muttered, positioning himself protectively in front of Liani, "guess the party's starting early." Liani's skin pulsed with waves of electric blue, her fear and determination bleeding through their unexpected connection. "Josh, I can't let them take me. Not like this." He felt it too, the raw power thrumming beneath her skin, the potential for something beyond his considerable experience. His nanotech hummed in response, neural pathways lighting up with combat data and tactical assessments. "Trust me," he whispered, his grip on her hand tightening. "We're getting out of here." The lead merc raised a wicked-looking pulse rifle. "Subject 37, by order of Neo Genesis Corporation, you are to be remanded into our custody. Comply immediately or—" Josh didn't wait for the rest. His body exploded into motion, crossing the space between them faster than the human eye could track. The merc's words cut off in a strangled gasp as Josh's enhanced fist connected with his solar plexus, crumpling the reinforced armor like tissue paper. Chaos erupted. Energy bolts sizzled through the air, leaving scorch marks on the walls. Josh moved with inhuman speed, his nanotech-infused muscles propelling him into a deadly dance. A roundhouse kick sent another merc flying, while he used the momentum to snatch a pulse rifle from stunned hands. "Liani, down!" he barked, dropping to one knee and laying down, suppressing fire. The alien woman complied instantly, her body becoming nearly invisible as she activated some kind of defensive camouflage. Josh's tactically enhanced mind ran probabilities at lightning speed. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and rapidly running out of options. His gaze fell on the ornate mirror Liani had struggled with days ago, now shattered, its pieces glittering on the floor like starlight. "I've got a really stupid idea," he called out, feeling a surge of answering adrenaline through their link. "You up for it?" Liani materialized beside him, her eyes blazing with otherworldly energy. At this point, absolutely. Josh grinned, a feral expression that had nothing to do with his IT specialist cover. "Then hold on tight, beautiful. We're going for a ride." In one fluid motion, he scooped Liani into his arms and charged straight for the floor-to-ceiling windows. The mercs, caught off guard by the suicidal move, hesitated for a crucial second. It was all the time Josh needed. His shoulder slammed into the reinforced glass with the force of a battering ram. For a heart-stopping moment it held. Then, with a sound like 1,000 wind chimes shattering, they were falling into the neon-lit abyss of New Aurora's lower levels. Wind whipped past them as they plummeted. Liani clung to Josh, her hair a vibrant streamer against the kaleidoscope of lights. He felt her fear spike through their connection, but there was exhilaration there too, a wild, primal joy at defying death. "I hope," she shouted over the rushing air, "that stupid idea of yours has a second part." Josh's enhanced vision had already mapped their trajectory, calculating angles and wind resistance. "Oh, ye of little faith," he quipped, angling their bodies towards a maintenance scaffolding jutting from a nearby building. "Brace yourself." They hit the metal grating with bone-jarring force. Josh's reinforced skeleton absorbed most of the impact, but he still felt ribs crack. Liani gasped in pain, her grip on him tightening. No time to catch their breath. The scaffolding groaned ominously, metal shrieking as it began to give way. Josh half ran, half slid down the tilting surface, Liani's lithe form still cradled against him. They leapt from the collapsing structure onto a passing cargo transport, the anti-grav fields cushioning their landing. Josh's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of pursuit, repulsor engines whining as the mercs gave chase. "You know," Liani panted, her skin flickering with pulses of bioluminescence, "when I imagined our first date, this wasn't quite what I had in mind." Josh couldn't help but laugh, the sound rich with adrenaline and an unexpected surge of affection. "What? You mean you don't enjoy a little corporate-sponsored attempted kidnapping on a night out?" Her answering smile was equal parts fierce and playful. "Well, the company's not bad." Their banter was cut short as energy bolts rained down around them. The cargo transport rocked dangerously, its autopilot struggling to compensate. Josh's tactical display lit up with multiple incoming hostiles. "We need to get to the docks," he said, helping Liani to her feet. "I've got a friend who might be able to get us off station." "A friend?" Liani arched an eyebrow, her tone teasing despite their dire circumstances. "Should I be jealous?" Josh's lips quirked in a half-smile. "Let's just say he owes me a favor. Big one." They made their way across the shifting cargo, leaping from one anti-grav platform to another. The station's lower levels were a maze of neon-lit corridors and shadowy alcoves, perfect for losing pursuit but also ripe with potential ambush points. As they rounded a corner, Josh's enhanced senses picked up the telltale electromagnetic signature of a cloaking field. He reacted on pure instinct, shoving Liani behind a stack of crates just as a hulking figure materialized. The new assailant was easily 7 feet tall, with 4 arms ending in vicious-looking pincers. Some kind of genetically engineered shock trooper, Josh realized. Neo Genesis wasn't pulling any punches. I don't suppose you'd consider letting us pass, Josh asked, settling into a fighting stance. No hard feelings and all that? The creature's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. Then it charged. Josh met the assault head-on, his nanotech-enhanced muscles straining against inhuman strength. They traded blows at a speed that would have been a blur to normal eyes. Josh felt his reinforced bones creak under the onslaught, but his combat algorithms adapted with each exchange. A misstep. The shock trooper's pincers clamped down on Josh's arm, threatening to shear through enhanced flesh and metal. Pain lanced through him, but he gritted his teeth and used the creature's grip against it. With a move that would have torn a normal human's tendons to shreds, he twisted and hurled the much larger opponent over his shoulder. The shock trooper crashed into a pile of crates, sending up a cloud of shimmering powder. Josh's system immediately identified it as a commonly used recreational drug, not exactly regulation-issue cargo. Josh! Liani's warning came a split second before his own sensors registered the danger. The powder was highly combustible. Time seemed to slow as Josh's combat routines kicked into overdrive. He dove towards Liani, wrapping her in his arms just as the air ignited. The explosion sent them hurtling through a maintenance hatch and into a service tunnel. They tumbled together in a tangle of limbs, coming to rest in a secluded alcove. For a moment, they simply lay there, hearts racing, the sounds of pursuit muffled by the ringing in their ears. Liani was sprawled across Josh's chest, her skin glowing with pulses of soft blue light. Their faces were inches apart, and Josh became acutely aware of every point of contact between them. The unexpected intimacy of the moment hit him like a physical force. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice rougher than he intended. Liani nodded, making no move to pull away. "Thanks to you." Again. Her eyes searched his face, filled with a mixture of wonder and something deeper. "You keep saving me." "Well," Josh murmured, allowing himself a small smile, "you did say I was resistant to your charms. Gotta keep you around to see if that holds true." She laughed softly, the sound sending pleasant vibrations through their connected bodies. "Is that a challenge, Mr. Killian?" The air between them seemed to crackle with unspoken tension. Josh felt his nanotech responding to her proximity, creating sensations he couldn't quite classify. It would be so easy to close that last bit of distance, to... A distant explosion snapped them back to reality. "Right," Josh said, reluctantly helping Liani to her feet. Daring escape now, unresolved sexual tension later. Liani's skin flushed a deeper blue, but her eyes sparkled with mischief. "I'm holding you to that, soldier boy." They made their way through the cramped service tunnels, relying on Josh's enhanced senses to navigate the labyrinth. The sounds of pursuit grew fainter, but Josh knew better than to let his guard down. Neogenesis wouldn't give up easily. "So," Liani said as they paused at an intersection, her voice pitched low. "Not that I'm complaining about the dashing rescue, but what exactly are you? Some kind of super soldier?" Josh considered his answer carefully. Trust was a luxury he hadn't allowed himself in years, but something about Liani made him want to take the risk. "Something like that," he admitted. "Project Titan. Experimental nanotech designed to create the perfect covert operative. Faster, stronger, able to interface with any system." He paused, a hint of bitterness creeping into his voice. The perfect weapon. Liani's hand found his in the darkness, her touch sending a jolt of warmth through his system. "You're more than a weapon, Josh. I've seen it." He squeezed her hand gently, allowing himself a moment of vulnerability. "Maybe. What about you? I'm guessing rare alien species doesn't quite cover it." Liani's skin dimmed, her expression growing serious. "My people. We're empaths, telepaths to a degree. But more than that, We can manipulate energy on a fundamental level. In the right circumstances, we can even alter reality itself. Josh whistled low. No wonder Neogenesis wants you so badly. It's more than that, Leonie continued, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm different, enhanced, like you. My abilities are stronger, more unstable. That's why I was in hiding. If they get their hands on me during my cycle. She trailed off, but Josh could feel the fear and determination radiating from her. He made a decision then, one that went against years of training and survival instincts. They won't, he said firmly. I won't let them. Leonie's answering smile was like a supernova. We won't let them, she corrected. They shared a moment of unspoken understanding, a connection that went beyond words or physical attraction. Then, with renewed purpose, they pressed on. The service tunnels eventually led them to a maintenance shaft that opened onto the station's bustling docking ring. Josh's enhanced vision picked out their target immediately, a battered but well-maintained freighter with familiar markings. There, he pointed, the lost cause. Our ticket out of here. Leonie quirked an eyebrow. Charming name. Friend of yours? Something like that, Josh replied with a wry grin. Let's just say Captain Mako and I have a complicated history. They made their way across the crowded docking bay, doing their best to blend in with the throng of travelers and dock workers. Josh's senses were on high alert, scanning for any sign of pursuit. They were less than 50 meters from their goal when all hell broke loose. Energy bolts sizzled through the air, sending civilians scattering in panic. Josh whirled to see a squad of Neogenesis mercs emerging from a nearby corridor, weapons raised. Go! He shouted to Leonie, shoving her towards the ship. I'll hold them off. For a moment, she hesitated. Then her eyes hardened with determination. Like hell you will, she growled. We do this together. Before Josh could argue, Leonie's skin erupted in a dazzling display of bioluminescence. The air around them shimmered, and he felt a wave of raw power wash over him. His nanotech went into overdrive, interfacing with whatever energy she was channeling. Time seemed to slow. Josh moved with impossible speed, weaving through the hail of energy bolts as if they were traveling through molasses. He closed the distance to the mercs in the blink of an eye, his enhanced strength sending armored bodies flying. Leonie was a blur of motion beside him, her movements graceful and deadly. Where Josh was all brutal efficiency, she was fluid elegance. Energy crackled around her hands, and with a gesture she sent two attackers hurtling backwards as if struck by an invisible force. They fought in perfect synchronicity, his physical prowess complementing her psychic abilities. Josh had never experienced anything like it. It was as if their minds were linked, anticipating each other's moves before they happened. The battle was over in moments, leaving a ring of unconscious or groaning mercenaries around them. Josh turned to Leonie, his chest heaving with exertion and something dangerously close to exhilaration. That was, he began, struggling to find words. Amazing, Leonie finished, her eyes shining with a mixture of wonder and hunger. I've never felt anything like it. The moment was shattered by the sound of approaching reinforcements. Without another word, they sprinted for the lost cause. The ship's engines were already powering up, the boarding ramp extending as if in welcome. They made it inside just as another wave of energy bolts peppered the hull. The ramp sealed behind them with a pneumatic hiss, and Josh felt the familiar lurch of acceleration as the ship broke free of its docking clamps. Well, well, a raspy voice called from the cockpit. If it ain't the prodigal son himself. Brought company too, I see. Captain Mako swiveled in his pilot's chair, his craggy features split in a wide grin. The Kaftaran's leathery skin and protruding snout gave him a distinctly reptilian appearance, but his eyes twinkled with very human mischief. Mako, Josh nodded, allowing himself a small smile. "Good to see you, you old pirate." "Pirate?" Mako clutched his chest in mock offense. "I'll have you know I'm a legitimate businessman these days. Mostly." He winked at Liani. "So, what kind of trouble you stirred up this time, boy?" Josh gave him the abbreviated version as Mako deftly piloted them through New Aurora's defensive grid. By the time he finished, they were already making the jump to hyperspace, the station receding to a glittering pinprick behind them. "Neogenesis, eh?" Mako shook his head. "You sure know how to pick 'em, kid. Well, don't you worry. Old Mako's got just the place for you two lovebirds to lay low for a while." Josh opened his mouth to protest the lovebirds comment, but Liani beat him to it. "And where might that be, Captain?" she asked, a hint of challenge in her voice. Mako's grin widened. "Ever hear of a little slice of paradise called Eden 7? As the stars stretched into streaks of light around them, Josh felt a weight lift from his shoulders. They weren't out of danger yet, not by a long shot. But for the first time in years, he felt something dangerously close to hope. He glanced at Liani, who was gazing out at the swirling vortex of hyperspace with wonder in her eyes. She must have sensed his attention because she turned to meet his gaze. The smile she gave him was like coming home to a place he'd never known he was missing. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. And somehow, that made all the difference in the universe. 6 months later, Eden 7. Josh stood on the observation deck of Eden 7, gazing out at the swirling nebula that surrounded the remote space station. The cosmic ballet of gas and newborn stars painted the sky in hues of purple and gold, a view that still took his breath away after all these months. He felt her presence before he heard her approach, a warm tingle at the base of his skull that his nanotech had learned to recognize and welcome. Liani's arm slipped around his waist, her cheek resting against his back. "Credit for your thoughts?" she murmured, her voice carrying that musical lilt that never failed to make his heart skip a beat. Josh turned, drinking in the sight of her. Liani's blue skin shimmered softly in the starlight, her pink hair cascading over shoulders left bare by her flowing dress. Even after all this time, she still managed to take his breath away. "Just thinking about how far we've come," he replied, tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "From running for our lives to this." Liani's smile was radiant. "Regrets?" "Not a single one," Josh said, pulling her closer. Their lips met in a kiss that started gentle but quickly deepened, charged with the same electric connection that had drawn them together from the start. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Liani's skin was pulsing with waves of soft blue light. Josh felt his nanotech respond in kind, creating a pleasant warmth that spread through his entire body. "You know," Liani said, a mischievous glint in her eye, "I seem to recall something about unresolved sexual tension later back on New Aurora." Josh grinned, his hands tracing patterns on the small of her back. "I'm a man of my word." Their laughter echoed through the empty observation deck as they made their way back to their quarters, hands intertwined and hearts light. Later, as they lay tangled in sheets, Liani's head resting on Josh's chest, he marveled at how much his life had changed. The hardened soldier, the perfect weapon, had found something he never thought possible: a home, a purpose, and love. "I can hear you thinking," Liani murmured, pressing a kiss to his collarbone. "Want to share?" Josh ran his fingers through her hair, enjoying the way it made her skin pulse with bioluminescence. "Just grateful, I guess. For you, for this place, for second chances." Liani propped herself up on an elbow, her expression growing serious. "We've done good here, Josh, helping others like us escape the corporations, giving them a safe haven. It matters." He nodded, thinking of the small community they'd built on Eden 7. former test subjects, escaped company assets, and others fleeing corporate control, all finding refuge and purpose under their protection. It does, he agreed, though I have a feeling Neogenesis isn't done with us yet. Liani's eyes flashed with determination. Let them come. We're stronger together. As if on cue, the station's alert system chimed softly. Incoming transmission, the AI announced. Origin, unknown. Security protocols engaged. Josh and Liani shared a look of understanding. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as one. He felt the familiar surge of combat readiness, his nanotech humming to life. But this time, it was tempered by something new, hope, purpose, and the unshakable knowledge that he was no longer alone. Well, Josh said, a hint of his old roguish grin playing at his lips. Duty calls. Ready to save the galaxy, beautiful? Liani's answering smile was fierce and bright. Always, soldier boy. As they dressed and prepared to face whatever new threat had found them, Josh felt a sense of completeness he'd never known before. The perfect weapon had found his perfect match, and together, they were unstoppable. The future stretched out before them, a canvas of infinite possibilities. There would be battles to fight, lives to save, and a corrupt system to challenge. But here, in this moment, with Liani by his side and a found family to protect, Josh knew one thing with absolute certainty. He was exactly where he was meant to be. The End Epilogue. 5 years later. The laughter of children echoed through the corridors of Eden 7, a sound that still brought a smile to Josh's face every time he heard it. He made his way to the station's newly expanded nursery, nodding greetings to the various residents they'd welcomed over the years. Inside, he found Liani surrounded by a group of young ones, her skin glowing softly as she used her abilities to create shimmering illusions of distant worlds. Their daughter, Zara, sat at the center of the group, her blue skin a shade lighter than her mother's and her eyes carrying the same enhanced perception as her father's. "Daddy!" Zara squealed, launching herself into Josh's arms. He caught her with ease, marveling at how quickly she was growing. "Hello, little star," he said, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Giving your mother trouble today?" Liani rose gracefully, shooing the other children off to play. "No more than usual," she said with a wink. "She's got your knack for finding mischief." Josh chuckled, setting Zara down. "Go on, kiddo. Why don't you show the others that new trick Uncle Mako taught you?" As their daughter scampered off, Josh pulled Liani into an embrace. "How are you feeling?" he asked, his hand resting gently on the swell of her stomach. "We're just fine," Liani assured him, covering his hand with her own. "Your son is as active as his father." The moment was interrupted by a gentle chime from Josh's comm unit. "Perimeter alert," the AI announced. "Unidentified ship requesting docking clearance." Josh and Liani shared a look of understanding. Even after all these years, they remained vigilant. Eden 7 had grown into a beacon of hope for those seeking refuge from corporate control, and with that came constant challenges. "Duty calls," Josh said, his voice carrying a mix of resignation and determination. Liani nodded, her eyes shining with the same fierce protectiveness. "Together?" "Always," Josh replied, taking her hand. As they made their way to the docking bay, ready to face whatever new adventure awaited them, Josh felt a profound sense of gratitude. The lost soldier and the hunted empath had found not just each other, but a family, a home, and a purpose greater than themselves. Whatever the future held, they would face it side by side, their love a force powerful enough to reshape the very fabric of the universe. Well, look who made it to the end. Congratulations, intrepid listener. You've survived more space chases and unresolved sexual tension than a season finale of Andromeda's Got Talent. Now, you might be wondering what happened after our dashing IT specialist turned super soldier and his glowing blue space girlfriend rode off into the cosmic sunset. Did they live happily ever after? Did Neo Genesis Corporation finally get the hint and leave them alone? Let's just say that life on Eden 7 is never dull. Between Josh's nanotech developing a fondness for karaoke, nothing says tense negotiation like an impromptu rendition of I Will Always Love You, and Liani accidentally starting a galactic fashion trend with her bioluminescence, our heroes have their hands full. Their kids, oh, they're a handful all right. Imagine toddlers who can hack the ice cream dispensers and create psychic force fields to avoid bedtime. Parent-teacher conferences are interesting to say the least. And Captain Mako. Last we heard, he was making a killing selling, I survived a Neo Genesis kidnapping attempt and all I got was this lousy t-shirt merchandise. They're all the rage at intergalactic truck stops. So there you have it, folks. The utterly serious and not at all embellished aftermath of our tale. Remember, in space, no one can hear you laugh, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. Now, if you'll excuse me, I hear there's a blue-skinned baby with enhanced hacking abilities trying to reprogram the station's gravity controls. Again, never a dull moment in the life of a narrator.